That's a pretty nice example why I definitely should use the wobblers in a later stage. You see the spray goes against the leaves. That of course is like rain, but then the area irrigation is cut short because everything to the right will get only a little bit. So the wobblers is a second stage tool. I first need to grow these trees and not care about the space between them, and then introduce the wobblers in the lanes between the trees, and then the spray only goes to the trunk where there are no leaves because I keep pruning, and then this works out better. So I think that is a very good example of what not to do. It doesn't look that bad from here, from the other side, but the issue is still there. Because when the wobbler is too close to the tree, then that is what happened. And that's why I started pruning there a little while ago, and I still have a few branches that I should remove. I just looked at one, so when this finishes I will cut that one off. But that is how things need to be maintained. So I'm learning, and I'm very happy, and I think you agree that this is a very lovely site, and we are in the middle of summer. So this is the future that I always envisioned, so it makes me very happy. And I have to say, today it's also not very hot. So we had a heat wave, and the maximum I saw was 44. And now it is way less. It's pleasant now. There to the left, behind the dish, there is also another problem. That tree could use a lot more water. And it gets water, but because of the distance to the wobbler here on the right and the blockage of the leaves on the left, the other wobbler is behind there, it gets a lot less than it's supposed to. So there's more work to do. And if I were placing a wobbler there, I could. Then of course this would receive it, but then again I would spray against the tree. So I need to do this in a different way. Probably should add something in between there, but then it's a question of scheduling. When can I do what? And I have to admit, when it was scorching hot, I rather stayed indoors, but of course there's other things to do, so there's the challenge. Working with these plants is not my primary occupation, to put it that way. But the tree is not dead, the tree continues to grow, but it's a bit slow. There is actually another case that is very similar over there. So there is a very small one and the other one. But I might need to do a trench there, and therefore there's not so much effort. What I do have is this, and I have a few more of this, and also a different model, but I need to figure out how to properly install them. So they spray in a sector, and that comes next. So basically I need to reinvent this irrigation system for the next round. So basically by, let's say end of April, I need to have this done. So there's plenty of time to get this sorted out now that I know how it works. And you might ask, why didn't you do this before? Well, I had the hope that the employees were figuring this out. They had all the opportunity and tools and all the time, but did not work out. And so I am now figuring out this myself, and then I will do it. No harm done. You have just seen the very, very tall trees where I talked about the spray against the tree. The trees in here have been planted even a little bit later. Oh, no, even a bit, no, actually, a little bit later. So they have been planted a little bit later, maybe 3 weeks later than the other ones. And you see how small they are. And this area definitely was moist, but it was not loose. So in the future vegetable garden, there I used material from digging out a pond and never got compacted. While this is basically the regular ground from before. And you see, that seems to have an effect. There's ample water, ample amount of water, because it has been wet all the time. But they are growing very slow. And so I think the compaction is a factor. And the ones further up, let me walk there. And the stuff is growing, which is good. It loosens up the soil. But you see those there, they're in the middle. Let me zoom a little bit. So they got planted into the soil that I loosened up with the excavator. And I did not do this further down, so behind me. That makes a difference. So that also makes me think that I should have some sort of a mini excavator, something that is easy, so that I can do this even in closed spaces like over there. I need to figure out how to get a hold of such a machine. And keep in mind, there's no way to rent this occasionally around here. It's either you buy it or you don't have it. So I guess I need to find the budget and then find a suitable machine that I can use to not take this machine there between those trees. I said this already. So something that is large enough for all kinds of jobs, but also small enough. I am looking, I see what other people use in other videos, and yeah, I get a little bit envious. I would love to have such a thing. So for example, I saw someone using a Bobcat E45, I think it was. Yeah, that would be nice. Something like that. Has a bucket the same size of the backhoe, but sits on tracks and can maneuver a lot easier. I would be very happy with such a thing. But of course, it costs money, and that is always the constraint. But I think for what I want to achieve here in this area and overall, I should definitely have such a thing. And this will die here, so there is no point in trying to sell this. It doesn't bring a lot, because I purchased this for less than 20. And if I would like to sell this now, I would have to repair a lot of things to make it nice and pretty, and then maybe get 10 or even less. So I better keep it, because it's still very useful. It is extremely useful because it's an excavator and it can move dirt, and also doubles with the forks as a replacement for a tractor for some parts or some tasks. So there is no point in selling this. And if I get an actual excavator as an additional tool, that would certainly help me. Especially as I try this to do this basically on my own. Well, I have to say, I do have a helper here and there, but I should treat it as a single person job. It is always good to build things for one hand, one person operation. I am not really sure how many times I have cut this already here in this lane. That lane does not exist since a very long time. And you see Carlotta the goose there foraging. So this is making grass, but also the pioneer species, and it's making soil. And think that works very well. Sorry for the wind. So this is a very positive thing, and I used the tool here that has a knife on the end, because this stuff is a little bit harder than grass, and I would use a lot of string for doing this very same thing. And this was a very quick job, maybe 5 minutes or so. So this is very, very, very easy. And it helps the animals to find their food, and especially Carlotta to find grass. And for those who have not heard this, so Carlotta is the goose that you see there. And geese eat grass, not bugs. They eat a lot of other things if they have to, but they prefer grass, and they poop a lot every 20 minutes or so, which is fertilizer, which is very positive. I think you might find this quite interesting. So you see there in the distance the tallest of the Paulownia trees, and remember when I planted them, it's not so long ago, is already now as tall as the wobbler. So they grow very fast. And we are now getting to the end of August, and so in September I expect rain. So it works out. And here on the other side, when we planted a little bit later, the same holds true. Of course, the wobblers there are on higher risers, but you can still see where this goes to, where this is going to. And there's Mr. Cat, but he needs to wait a little bit. So this one, by the way, has mated now, but this guy is not looking very good. So I think this might be a loss. And I have to admit, the distance between the wobbler and here is also a little bit far. So if there were another, basically over there, that would be better. But then the soil does not hold water because it is so compacted. So basically this tree only has the water that accumulates on the surface during the hour that the irrigation runs. So I definitely need to keep in mind that I need to dig for real and loosen up the soil mechanically before I plant these trees. Or have a drip irrigation, let the trees do this and drip irrigate multiple times a day. That would be the alternative, I guess. So in here, where the watermelon started, that wanted to be zucchini, something strange is going on. So 2 days ago, there was a vine, basically, from the watermelon, and it's still there, but it lost the leaves. So this does not work. It is definitely moist in there. The wobbler is right there. But I have a suspicion that there's competition over resources. And the stuff that you see is somehow winning. There are still leaves from the watermelon, but you can see they are not looking very healthy. And there is one watermelon that actually emerged. So one fruit, basically. This one here. But you look how this looks like. And it's not growing because you can see what the leaves are doing. So this is very strange. Everything else is growing very well, including the grasses here at the edge. But what wanted to be a watermelon does not. And I think, and also there. So wherever I look, so there is a little bit of watermelon that looks a bit healthier. It's a bit difficult to walk here. So there, maybe here we will have more luck. But this is how the other also started. You see there's a little watermelon. So this is not so good. Might also be that in that case shade is also an issue. And maybe we have more luck in that area and also there. This definitely looks better. But this is failing, to put it that way. The zucchini probably would have worked out better, but I confused the two when they were very little. And so I would say don't grow watermelon when there is too much other stuff. And like I said, it is very difficult to remove all the other stuff. Once the seed bank opens, things will grow. And the commercial grower has means to stop this from happening. But it's a little bit a challenge. But then that's why you do experiments. And it's also interesting why all this is growing here and it's not growing there, there, and over there. So, I don't know. The thing is, before, this was a patch where we had, what was it? Okra. And also the grasses, and that worked out. And now all the other things show up. And of course they like the irrigation. So quite interesting. But maybe here on this side, where it's also a bit sunnier, we get lucky. And you see there is another one that is dying before making any product. So my suspicion is that when the mother plant in there gets overwhelmed, this will not help. So I'm wondering, but the trees, they have grown very well. And they have grown very well, I have to say, because they were very tiny. And you can see this at the, basically, the upper third is new. So that's very impressive. And now that the scorching heat comes to an end, as it appears, these also start looking a little bit better. They do get the moisture, but of course if it evaporates right away, then at the end of the spray radius it's not enough. Lessons learned, quite a few. This hen goes from one nesting box to another, but she's definitely a Broody hen. And she is doing her job, so that's very good.